member of the statutory faculty who is substituting for our law school rep, Mohsen Manesh, is not here, and so law school faculty member Michael Schill will be substituting, which brings us to quorum. I would like to invite Matthew Norton to come give the land acknowledgement, please.
Hello. It's an honor to be able to do this today when we're finally actually back in a physical space on actual land in the same place at the same time together for the first time in a long time. The University of Oregon is located on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. Today, descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians of Oregon, and continue to make important contributions to their communities at the U of O, across the land we now refer to as Oregon, and around the world. We express our respect for all federally recognized tribal nations of Oregon. This includes the Burns Paiute Tribe, the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua and Siuslaw Indians, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Coquel Indian Tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Indian Tribe of Indians, and the Klamath Tribes. We also express our respect for all other displaced indigenous peoples who call Oregon home.
So as I understand it, we have a quorum for approximately the next 12 minutes, at which point we will lose President Schill, who has to go present an award. But you can come back. In that case, we don't have to rush through all the voting immediately. Let me postpone my remarks until later. Could I ask you to do the same? Okay, thank you. Heather, yes. And at this point, I would like to jump straight into voting business. And then we'll come back and we'll catch all of the remarks after President Schill returns. So first, the approval of the minutes is on the docket. We can skip that. Great. We need to vote to approve the curriculum report, for which Francis White is invited to come. Let us know.
And this is never speak at a microphone after Matthew Norton because he's too tall. The curriculum report was posted a couple of weeks ago. It's changed. It keeps changing. I remind everybody that it keeps changing because the committees and councils keep meeting. So there's additions and corrections that go in right up to the very last minute and then some. So this is the version number something. And then added after this, the courses not taught have been added. There's 2 music proposals were approved yesterday via email by the Undergraduate Council. PS 275 was approved by UACC, and a typo was corrected. There is also reference to the 2 motions that are coming up after this, because if passed, they also go into the curriculum report. So they're in there at the moment as placeholders.
Thank you. Do I have any debate on this particular vote, on this motion? I see none. In the absence of any disagreement, let's declare it passed by acclaim. Okay. Thank you, Francis, and thank you to the UO Curriculum Committee. Our next one is the course attendance and engagement policy. Mike Price came and presented that at our last meeting, and at this point, We are prepared to have whatever debate we're going to have plus a vote. Since this is our first in-person meeting, actually I was supposed to say this at the beginning, let me say it now. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, so if you do not wish your image to appear on our recording, you can leave, except you can't because we need you for quorum. So just wanted to let you know the pressure's on. Hold something up before your face if you don't want your image on the recording. If you want to be recognized to speak, we have microphones on both sides. Just come up and get queued up. The criteria that guide who gets recognized first is we want to alternate between speaking for and against any motion. Other than that, it's whoever's first in line, just alternating between the sides. And finally, when it's time to vote, I'll ask for a shout out of call the question, second, etc., and then we can actually do the vote. And at that point, what I'll say is the sequence will be the same. I'll say, those in favor, and you hold up your name tent. And then I'll say, keep it up until the counting is done. Then I'll say, those opposed, and you hold up your name tent, and we do the count again. And then when I finally say, okay, you can put it down, then we'll say, those who want to abstain, and then the vote will be done. But we have to actually keep them up until the count is done. So that's it. I would like to invite anyone who would like to speak either in favor of or opposed to the course attendance and engagement policy to come to the microphone. Thank you. In the absence of a vigorous debate, would anyone like to propose that we call the question? Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor, raise your names. It has passed. We don't even, well, all those who would like to oppose, for the record. Okay, we have an opposition. Those who would like to abstain, for the record. Sold. Thank you to the Undergraduate Council. Now we have the second Undergraduate Council motion, the revised incomplete policy. At this point, I would like to invite people to come to the microphone to speak for or against this motion. A decent interval having passed, would anyone like to propose that we call the question? Do I hear a second? All those in favor, please raise your names. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Sold again. Thank you to Mike and Jagdeep, who are here representing the Undergraduate Council. At this point, we have a vote now on the creation of the service dashboard, department policies, and a requirement for minimum institutional service, which was put forward by the Service Task Force. There are a couple of small modifications that have been made to this. One is to make the dashboard, as was brought up in several meetings, the dashboard should show all service, not just institutional service. The other change is that while there is a minimum institutional service requirement that is to be imposed centrally, that it would be, there would be a mechanism for departments to request someone's external service to be reduced or to count for that institutional service if there's a particular external service that a department believes is sufficiently important as to take someone away from institutional service. The third change is this is now a resolution rather than legislation. And so with that in mind, I invite people to come and speak for and against. You know, doing this thing where we kick it around the meeting before seems to lead to a less robust debate when the day of the vote arrives. In the absence of arguments for or against, would someone like to call the question? All right. All those in favor, lift up your names. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Boom. At this point, I would like to invite candidates for the position of Vice President and President-elect for the upcoming year to identify themselves. We have one candidate, Gerard Sandoval. Senator Sandoval, please come up and tell people why you want this job.
I do want this job, so thank you. So thank you, President and members of the UO Senate. For the record, my name is Gerard Sandoval. Let me share a little bit of my academic background with you. So I don't think I've met everyone. So I've been at the UO for 12 years, and I've actually recently been promoted to full professor. And thanks. Yeah, it feels really good to be full, actually. It's great. So this is my second term as a senator, and really the highlight was actually serving on the task force for the university service. And so I'm really kind of excited to take on this new role. In terms of my scholarship, I study the relationship between urban planning and immigration. I've been fortunate to receive 3 national awards from my discipline, my discipline's academic organization, the Association of Collegiate Schools of Planning, and that was for best article and best book and best dissertation in urban planning. On a personal note, I was born in Guatemala, and I immigrated to Los Angeles when I was 4 years old. I grew up in a low-income immigrant Central American neighborhood, which at the time was actually like the hub of like crime and drugs in Los Angeles. And then I went on to UC Berkeley to get my doctorate in city and regional planning. I'm also a disabled military veteran. I served for 6 years in the Army as an officer. And I am married to an elementary school teacher. We have 3 kids together, a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 7-year-old, all at different schools. So the mornings are pretty hectic around our household. Service has been really important. It's been a really important part of my academic life. So some examples have been, I've been the co-director of the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies. I've also been a member of the university task force for the long-term responses to COVID-19. That was really interesting because most of that consisted of briefings on getting to know different aspects of the university, and I think that'll really help me with this, in this role. And I've also been the chair of the Equity and Inclusion Committee for both my college and also for my department. In my free time, I'm involved in important public policy roles for the state of Oregon. So I was nominated by Governor Brown and confirmed by the Oregon Senate to serve on 2 governing boards. The first board is the State of Oregon's Housing Stability Council, and that council allocates the state's affordable housing funding and also provides the state's funding for homeless services. In addition, we're currently providing $425 million in federal funding for the reconstruction of different towns due to the fires 2 years ago. The other governing board I belong to is the Land Conservation and Development Commission. That commission controls all cities' growth boundaries and creates the rules around land use throughout the state. And so, for example, the new codes that are being implemented by the city of Eugene for increasing the supply of middle housing, we set those rules at the state level, and then each city in Oregon has to go about implementing those. Okay, so why do I want to be your VP? It's really because the U of O has really been good to me. It's been really a place where I could really kind of find my voice as a junior scholar that has moved through the ranks. and it's helped me mature as an academic. I've had outstanding membership here in my department, and I really do feel like the labor that I provide to the university is really recognized. And so I feel like at this point in my career, I feel like I have some unique attributes that I think I can kind of give back in this role. So as the VP and then the president, I want to focus on two aspects. The first one is on retaining faculty of color. So this currently is a pretty big problem here at the university. One of the important factors that contributes to this is really the invisible labor that faculty of color have to take on. So some people call this a form of cultural taxation. And that's basically service work that is not necessarily formally recognized by the university. So many times it sits outside of the committee structure or like a task force structure. And that's invisible service that really takes a lot of time away from faculty of color being able to do their research. I know a lot of the service I have, about half of it is formal and half of it is informal. And most of my services relates to equity and inclusion issues. So I've had to deal with this throughout my entire career. And I think that it's not the only issue. I think that issue fits nicely to the work we were doing here in the Senate around faculty service. And so I want to kind of mesh that into that. The other issue I really want to focus on is on strengthening our public service contributions to the state of Oregon. We need to demonstrate to the people of Oregon and to our legislators that the UO contributes significantly to the well-being of the state. In fact, it's in our mission statement, as it states that we have served the state since 1876, and that we enrich the human condition through our public service. So it's front and center. That's really one of the key things that the university should be doing, is contributing directly to public service in the state. Now, if you want to encourage state leaders to increase state funding to the U of O, I think we clearly need to demonstrate how we're contributing to the state. We can do this by showcasing how we're educating our Oregon students, especially those low-income students from rural areas throughout the state. In addition, we should highlight the transformative and experiential pedagogy our students are engaged in within Oregon communities, not necessarily just in the classroom, but a lot of our courses are actually outside in the community, and are actually contributing to change in communities throughout Oregon. We need to showcase how our faculty are using their expertise as they participate in direct state public service. We can emphasize the public service benefits of the Knight campus and the Future Bomber Institute in Portland. The point is that I believe the UO is making positive difference throughout our public service to the people of Oregon. But we need to make improvements on how we highlight that impact. Finally, I would like to say I have enjoyed being a part of the Senate these last 2 terms. I think when we talk about shared governance, we really take that very seriously. If I have the honor of serving as your vice president and president, I will strive to make every decision we make as transparent as possible. So I'll say that again. I'll try to be as transparent as possible. That's kind of like my #1 process goal. In supporting our mutual work and improving the academic mission of the University of Oregon. Okay, thank you.
If anyone else would like to announce themselves, this is your chance. And you don't get to grill him until he actually holds a gavel, I understand. So, seeing no other candidates, I would like to invite those in favor of electing Gerard Sandoval to be the next vice president, president-elect. Okay. All right. Yep, there it is. Now it's unanimous. Thank you, Gerard. Damn. So at this point, we no longer have to dash because we have quorum even without our esteemed substitute law school Senator, who is, which,
All I wanted
please.
to say today was just have a great summer. It was great seeing you at the house for the reception last week. And the reason I'm leaving is because this is the most fun. I'm getting an Erstad Award, and so I got to run and do that before the class ends because, of course, we like to ambush the person and surprise them. So in any event, I hope you all. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Spike. You've been a wonderful, wonderful president. Thank you, Dan, for your vice presidency. And Gerard, thank you so much for your willingness to take this on. And I hope all of you have a great and productive and hopefully restful and recharging summer. So thank you all.
All right, actually, let's backtrack a little bit before we get to giving the awards. There was the president's remarks and the ASUO president's remarks. The other president's remarks just happened. So, Heather, would you like to come give the ASUO remarks?
I'm very short. Hi, all. It's nice to see you in person. So the main updates for ASUO is that we're undergoing a massive hiring effort for our exec. The new leadership is undertaking a lot of changes, and we've had incredible engagement. We had over 120 applications for positions within ASUO, primarily within the executive cabinet and our committees, and we're really looking forward to the year we have ahead together. I think the other thing is just that Concord is also seeing some changes, and that Senate, ASUO Senate is having our final meeting tonight as well, which will involve the election of the Senate Vice President and Academic Chair. We elected our Senate President for the upcoming academic year last week, Arissa Mehta. We're really excited for the year with her as well. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, at this point, I just have two brief remarks to make, and then we can start with awards. The two remarks, one is an update that we have finalized the membership of the task force to look at, review the course approval process. I want to thank everyone who's agreed to serve on that. The chair of that task force will be Allison Schmidtke of Education. Other voting members, Elliot Berkman from Psychology and the Ballmer Institute, Christian Cherry from the School of Music and Dance, Robert Davis from Romance Languages, Nathan Jacobs from the Knight Campus, Christy Bryant-Berg from English, and we have 4 ex officio members who I also thank very much. That'll be Ron Bramhall from the Office of the Provost, Carolyn Vogt from the Registrar's Office, Rebecca Silva Rivera from the College of Arts and Sciences, and Rachel Godlove from SOJC Portland, who is a former curriculum coordinator for a joint Portland State Oregon Health Sciences University program. So just that's one. That group will begin their work early in the fall. The second thing I wanted to mention is that one of the things we really hoped to do even more of this year was an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion work. We had a number of individual meetings where we had focus on that. As a part of that, I'd like to announce now the Senate Academy Library Research Guide, which is now posted on the front page of the Senate website. And I really want to call out publicly and thank the members who put this together. Christy Bryant-Berg was the chair of that group. Elliot Berkman, Jay Butler, Jessica Krantz, Bettina Lynn, Charlotte Motes Gallagher, Dan Tishner, and I rounded out that group. And it was a pleasure working with you all this year, and I hope people have a chance to look at that. And there's just an awful lot of good stuff to read that can get you in the right space to be thinking about what we can do differently going forward. So that's it for the remarks I have right now. I have a couple of others saved up for when it's time to pass the gavel, which is a moment away yet. But first, we have 3 Service Awards. I would like to invite Damon Campbell to come present the Classified Staff Leadership Award.
Okay. Can you hear me? Awesome. Hey all, I'm Damon Campbell. I'm the Acquisitions Librarian at the Knight Library, and I'm here to talk to you about my colleague, Lydia Harlan. Lydia is our library's budget and receiving coordinator, and she's been a part of the libraries for 10 years now. I've had the privilege of working with her for 8 of those years, and in that time, she has demonstrated her leadership qualities on an ongoing basis. Lydia makes a point of identifying and attending a suite of professional development activities every academic year. This includes job-related, aspirational, diversity, and safety events, and she puts the things that she brings, learns there into practice at our institution. Lydia's budget responsibilities have increased dramatically over time. She's grown from monitoring the budget and identifying upcoming challenges to implementing a revamped budget structure and familiarizing our stakeholders through presentations. And then recently, she submitted an enthusiastically received proposal to rearrange our collections budget. In the last year alone, Lydia has developed a tool to help our subject specialists identify cost changes for continuing resources, which will help them make better collections decisions going forward. Lydia has collaborated across departments to automate portions of the invoicing workflow. This not only makes our work more efficient, but it lays the groundwork for more automation in our unit. And Lydia collaborated across different units to to create a tool to visualize our cost per use data. Now, aside from the benefits to our organization, this work has also led to Lydia being appointed to the Collection Managers Group, which is a leading force in how we dispense and communicate issues with our collections. One of Lydia's numerous strengths, and we've gone over it, is her ability to collaborate. The work I've mentioned with regard to this collaboration in the budget is hard evidence of that fact. And her acumen in this area is such that on an ongoing basis, we receive accolades both from within and outside of our organization that tell us all about how awesome Lydia's work truly is. And we know it from within as well. So in the process of nominating for Lydia for this award, not only was I able to identify several people who were really eager to sign on, but I also found out that there was a completely separate group of people who were working on their own nomination for Lydia. So not only did I feel that she deserved this award, but a bunch of other people within our organization did, and the Senate seems to agree because here we all are. So thank you, Lydia. You're excellent. I see it, and I want you to know that I see it, and thankfully everyone here gets to see it too. Congratulations.
Please, and then we'll do.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, thank you. Do you want to hear my joke? Okay, what does a librarian take fishing? A bookworm. Thank you. Thank you all so much for this award. Thank you for the Senate for recognizing this type of work. I couldn't help but notice that the Senate's Classified Staff Leadership Award shares key concepts listed in the UO Library's mission, vision, and values statement: inquiry, diversity, and teamwork. I'd wager we have many classified staff at the libraries who embed these characteristics in their everyday work, like recent recipients Terry McQuilkin and Jimmy Murray. The projects my colleagues and I have been working on are the kinds of things where one person isn't likely to have all the skills and the knowledge in these disparate areas, but by collaborating together, we're able to expand our diverse collections, meet the challenges of financial stewardship, and refine our support of students and faculty. Our university's flexible spirit makes leading projects like these a productive and fulfilling experience. Thanks to UO Libraries for giving me the opportunity to use the library as a laboratory for collaboration and innovation. Thanks to all who nominated me, Damon Campbell, Gabrielle Hayden, Kristen Buxton, Mary Grenchie, Austin Munsell, Nancy Cunningham, Miriam Rigby, and Catherine Donaldson. It's been a pleasure working with you all. Okay.
Let's step out here to the middle where, just in case anyone wants a picture, there it is. The 2022 University of Oregon Senate Classified Staff Award for Lydia Harlan. Thank you.
Spike Foster, you want to come take a picture?
Yeah, okay. And then I'll get you the box so you can keep it safe. If it was me, it wouldn't make it out of the room. Second. Want to slide it in, keep it even safer? Thank you. Have the option. Now I'd like to invite Julianne Newton to come introduce the Leadership and Service Award for Officers of Administration.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to stand before you to introduce an exceptional person, Amy Boutel, who's Associate Director for Graduate Affairs in the School of Journalism and Communication. Let me tell you just a little bit about her. She came to us from the School of Law. I'm glad we recruited her over in 2018. Before that, she was at UC Santa Barbara, working as a writing ESL and foreign language supervisor. But get this, she was an editor for Cricket magazine, a producer for Hearst Communications, a literary agent. She held the James Michener Fellowship in Fiction, Poetry, and Nonfiction at the University of Texas Michener Center for Writers. And she has a BA from Barnard College and an MFA from the University of Texas. That's who we have running our graduate program. So let me tell you just a little bit about what she does. She is core to everything related to graduate studies in the School of Journalism and Communication. She works with more than 150 graduate students, more than 100 faculty and staff, managing operations for and advising in regard to our doctoral program in Communication and Media Studies, our research master's program in Communication and Media Studies, and 5 professional master's programs. She coordinates assignments for more than 50 graduate employees every term. And I can just tell you, those of you who are involved in that, you know the dominoes and all the dozens of variables that are involved in matching graduate employees with faculty, with courses, and so forth. She's also a major reason we have 12 new doctoral admits coming in the fall. I'm certain she's a major reason because she reached out to them personally, worked with them on their questions, led them through difficult application processes, and it's an international cohort, making it that much more complex. Let me tell you what a couple of her nominees said. Keisa Clark, one of our fine doctoral students. Amy is a consistent source of support and inclusion for graduate students across the programs in the SOJC. She's committed to shared governance through her promotion of graduate student leaders and graduate student involvement in departmental committees, meetings, and decision-making. Another of her nominators, Kaya Saxena, another doctoral student. Her administrative work in supporting the graduate programs at SOJC is exemplary. Her commitment to helping graduate students has been the sustaining backbone of our program. Her approach is deeply participatory and encourages transparency. fairness, and equity. Professor Chris Chavez, who was director of our doctoral program for 3 years before I moved in, says this: Amy is the soul of the graduate program. She approaches her work with compassion, hard work, and dedication, and she is a tireless advocate for our students. I would like to also represent Senior Associate Dean Leslie Steeves, who is in Paris presenting research to the International Communication Association. And what she would say is that we quite simply could not run our graduate programs without Amy Boutel. And then finally, I would like to share my final concluding words in the nomination. We are blessed to have Amy Boutel leading and supporting our graduate programs, students, and faculty. The quality and strength of her work raises the bar for all of us and distinguishes UO and the SOJC as locations of inclusiveness, compassion, and excellence. This extraordinary individual deserves to be recognized for her exemplary leadership and service to the University of Oregon. Thank you, Senate, for recognizing her.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Julie, for those beautiful words. It's an honor to receive this award. I'm so impressed by my supervisor, Leslie Steeves, spearheading this campaign to get me this award. She was totally determined. She enlisted several professors and 2 very busy doctoral students to write letters. I know how many letters of recommendation faculty have to write this time of year, so it was especially meaningful, and that students took time from their dissertation proposals, their research, their work as graduate employees. It's an honor to work with 150 fascinating individuals in both Eugene and Portland. It's a fun time of year. People are presenting their presentations of dissertation research and terminal projects. So it's gratifying to be able to witness all the amazing work that they're doing. And I would like to thank my fellow officers of administration for recognizing the work that people do working for graduate students. I have colleagues across the university, the Division of Graduate Studies, International Students and Scholars, the registrar. I couldn't do it without their support. It really is a team effort. So thank you for recognizing the role that we all play to support our graduate students.
Commemorate your award, and I don't see people waiting with a camera, but perhaps we should. All right, I'll keep a hand on it for them. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. So congratulations. It was good. Keep it safer, huh? Yeah. Do you want the rubber piece or? Geez, I think we need someone else to crack jokes at this point, because otherwise we're going to be done 45 minutes before the wine and beer get here. What a sad thought. But even so, since I don't tell jokes and I didn't bring a guitar, I would like to invite Aaron Beck to come up and make our next presentation.
I also don't have jokes, sorry. You know I really like Lynn Steven because I hate public speaking. This is like literally my nightmare. But I'll share my words about her. nonetheless. So the Wayne Teen Westling Award recognizes outstanding long-term leadership and service to the university, and I really can't think of anyone who is more deserving than my friend and colleague, Professor Lynn Steven. So Chris Chavez, Gabriela Martinez, and myself, as representatives of class, nominated Lynn in recognition of her tireless commitment to making the University of Oregon a more participatory, inclusive, respectful environment for faculty and students alike. Lynn has served as a critical mentor in her home department of anthropology for junior faculty and graduate students, focusing especially on female faculty and students of color, and LGBTQ plus members of the department. Beyond providing regular advice and organizing get-togethers, she has also read entire book manuscripts and grant proposals and given substantive feedback. As a junior faculty member, I would literally pay thousands of dollars for that type of mentorship. When I mentioned nominating Lynn for this award, a junior faculty member in her department wrote to me that Lynn is, quote, the real deal. If you bring a concern to her, she doesn't just give lip service, she does something about it and is always ready to have our backs. Lynn has a lasting legacy outside of her department as well. She spearheaded the founding of the Center for Latino, Latina, and Latin American Studies, or CLAS, and served as its director between 2010 and 2016, and has since continued on as an advisory board member. Lynn was instrumental in shaping the vision of the center, which serves as a critical bridge between the Latinx community and the University of Oregon, supports undergraduate, graduate, and faculty research, and fosters intellectual community across academic, activist, disciplinary, and student-faculty divides. Through CLAS, Lynn has mentored junior faculty who often struggle to find mentors in their home departments and trained future leaders in the university, breaking down the unwritten rules and explaining the dynamics of university governance to new faculty. And I was one of many such faculty who found a source of insight and support in Lynn. And really, I think the university owes her a huge debt in terms of faculty retention because she has created such a community here. The list of boards, committees, and other services in which Lynn has participated in the recent past alone is really long, so I'm not going to summarize them here. Currently, she is part of a provost-appointed task force exploring the viability of the University of Oregon becoming designated as a Hispanic-serving institution, as well as the UO Dreamers Committee. Her work in these areas reflects her commitment to promoting diversity and inclusion at the U of O, with a particular focus on Latinx faculty and students. This commitment can also be seen in her participation in organizing events that bring a wider diversity of voices to the U of O. So for example, Lynn used a large portion of her endowed chair last year to bring Maya Quiche activist Irma Alicia Velasquez Nimatu to the U of O campus. Professor Nimatu taught a class on indigenous women's activism in Latin America and also participated in a multi-day event that Lynn helped to organize called Air, Water, Land, Indigenous, Native, Black, Afro-Descendants, Relationalities, and Activism. And Lynn was really instrumental in conceptualizing the event, which featured Professor Nimatu and also Muskogee Creek artist and activist Amber Starks, alongside other Indigenous and Black activists, in conversation around critical issues of environmental sustainability, land rights, and food sovereignty. UO faculty, students, and community members benefit immensely from events like these, which Lynn has been organizing for literally decades. Lynn is also a tireless advocate for underrepresented faculty and students. So in the context of the pandemic, Lynn worked with colleagues at CSWS to draft a letter to urge the university leadership to recognize the care work undertaken by many UO faculty and graduate students, and to provide accommodations for those taking on elder care or child care during the pandemic. She later put her money where her mouth was and agreed to take on a heavier teaching load in her department to lighten the burden on junior faculty affected by the pandemic. Lynn is truly an inspiration to me and to countless others, and we really appreciate and thank her for her ongoing service, and thank you for recognizing that service. Thank you.
Wow, it's amazing to see everybody's actual bodies, spirits in the room instead of on a screen. I'm just so amazed and delighted to be here in person with all of you in person. And I guess, I don't know if you're live streaming or not, but that's great. It's just a profound pleasure. I first want to thank Gabriela Martinez, Chris Chavez, and Aaron Beck for the nomination. I've worked with them in many capacities. I also want to thank my spouse, Ellen Herman, for her support and partnership through all of our years at U of O. And I want to thank the Department of Anthropology and colleagues there, chairs there, for supporting my efforts across the university. When I Googled Wayne T. Wrestling, I came up with a short description of his work at the law school and in faculty governance. Of course, my research also resulted in lots of possible hits about the sport of wrestling, which I came to know and be a fan of. My youngest son, Jose, wrestled in middle school and for South Eugene High School. So wrestling now has multiple meanings for me. It's also, I think, an apt metaphor for what's involved in a commitment to participatory decision-making, institutional change and institution building, collaboration through shared governance, and creating a campus committed to equity and inclusion and a climate of respect. During the 2021 school year, almost 40% of Oregon public school K-12 students were students of color, including about 25% Latinx students, 6.8% of students who identified as multiracial, 4% Asian students, 2.32% Black students, 1.2% Native students, and 0.78% Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander students. The University of Oregon's current undergraduate student body is about 33.8, 34% students of color, not including international students. And by contrast, between 19 and 20% of career pro tem and tenure track faculty are of color. We can do better. And it's been an honor for me to contribute to different efforts that allow us to better serve now and in the future our students of color, first-generation students, LGBTQI+ students, women, and all students, and to build welcoming community for faculty and staff and everyone from all of these groups, and by extension to everyone else. While I've served on many official university committees and bodies, I've also been very committed, as Aaron mentioned, to institution building and mentoring. This is often unmapped service and leadership that many, many people engage in that never is seen and never is recognized. It doesn't appear on the official grid of committees. Building new research centers, new majors and minors, new forms of connection and organization requires collaboration and participation, and all of these efforts cannot be linked just to one person. In the case of me and many, many other people, I see many people here in the room that I've built things with, Gerard, Dan. We've served on the FAC together, you know, in my own department with Francis, so everyone is connected in all of these efforts. Mentoring, likewise, is not visible, whether it is of undergraduate, graduate students, junior or senior faculty. Connection, care, recognition, encouragement, and collaboration with our colleagues and students is the secret sauce to a great university. Thank you so much for this award and the recognition it represents, and the work of so many people that are represented in this award.
it's a brilliant thing to have colleagues that we can celebrate like this. Thank you, everyone, both for putting out the nominations, to the Senate for finding the, bringing together the nominations and voting for these, and to the awardees for doing what you do that inspires us all. So, thank you. At this point, there's only one piece of business left, right? This is my very first Senate meeting in person. I got to hold the gavel for one day. It's fun. I have a couple of remarks to make before passing the gavel. Just really, I mentioned this during my remarks to the Board of Trustees, and it's still true. And so just in case all of you weren't glued to the screen watching the live stream of the Board of Trustees, I ride my bike in from North Eugene every day, and along the bike path, there's this fence that's been painted, and it's had, it's had 3 different slogans painted on it, and each of them has struck me as being both true and important to hear. And the current one is one that struck me as really apropos to what we do in shared governance. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And, I've discovered in this job that there are times when there's some folks amongst us that really want to move fast, and it doesn't really work very well. You try to jump out ahead on your own, and the other folks aren't there with you, and you don't get much done. And I've also seen situations where people are like, well, you know what? Let's just let them have it with both barrels. And, that's a fast way to end a discussion. It's not a fast way to go far. And what I really appreciate is that we've been collaborative this year in arriving at decisions. And I like to think that those decisions are going to be implemented well because they were thoughtful decisions, and we kept tinkering until we got to where they were all decided by huge majorities. It wasn't like we had to have a 51 to 49% vote for anything, right? So I just want to end my year as president by expressing how grateful I am for all of you, for the excellent partners we've had this year, both in Johnson Hall and United Academics, for the leadership team that meets every Tuesday and laughs at least as much as we work. And I want to say I celebrate that our next president and now our vice president, president-elect, share my commitment to putting the share in shared governance and to thinking of how we can do this together. And I look forward to watching us go even farther in the years ahead. And now I'll smack the gavel one more time, and I'm done.
Can we formally thank outgoing President Spike Gildea, especially for leading us during a really tough year. So please join me. So I think my only official duty is to adjourn us to go ahead.
You need a motion and a vote to adjourn us.
Okay. So I see behind you I see a bar being set up and some food. So if you have time to stay, it would be wonderful to help celebrate the award winners and to celebrate a great year together. Next year we have a full agenda. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing most of you at that point. As you know, we're probably going to have our first meetings going to be in person, but most of the meetings will be on Zoom, as we have this past year. We found that to be kind of a very efficient, effective way to run meetings. And a lot of folks, as you saw with trying to get a quorum today, a lot of folks have had a hard time getting to these in person and have either young children, health concerns, kind of immune compromised issues, and just logistics. So we're still open-minded about the format in that regard, but that's our game plan next year. And I know we've heard from a few people, not a huge number, a few people who are yearning for the kind of social connection because it's kind of fun to talk to folks. And so we're probably going to have like a regular, maybe every 3 weeks, a kind of a social gathering. It might be something like meeting at Bartoletti's, is that the new Falling Sky downstairs? But like, I think we're gonna call it something like Slices with the Senate, where if folks wanna come by for lunch, we'll buy you some pizza, okay? And with that, I think I need to ask if someone would move to close the meeting. Do I hear a second? And and this will probably be the last time you'll hear a gavel. Oh yes, please vote. All in favor of adjourning? Any abstentions? Okay, we are done.